Hey guys, it's Will from Potato Strong. I'm going to do a book review on Eat Like You Care by Gary Francione. First of all, I want to say 2 thumbs up, 5 stars for this book. It's a little over 100 pages. I read it last night, and I just wanted to give you a brief explanation of what's in the book so you can decide for yourself if you want to check it out. He makes the point that we have a moral obligation to minimize suffering, unnecessary suffering of animals. And the second point is that he's not necessarily saying that animals and humans have the same moral value, but if there's any moral value, even if humans are above the animals, that there's still some moral value. So in certain cases of conflict, humans would win over animals if you had to make that decision. But the main point is that we should, minimize any kind of unnecessary suffering of animals. And once you learn that we don't need to eat animals, then the suffering that they're going through for food is really unnecessary. And when I look at animals being raised for food, there's the conditions that they have during their life, and then there's the death. So even if you made it unbelievably comfortable, had them running around, you're still killing them in the end. And animals want to live just like we do. So he goes into some of the details about animal use and the destruction that it causes to the environment, the water usage, the amount of soy and corn and like grains that are fed to animals that could be fed to humans. So there's some of that. But one thing that was really interesting is that he goes through a lot of the typical arguments that you hear from meat eaters, and it's very succinct in that each chapter talks about a certain question, or each topic is categorized by these different things that you hear, and it gives you a way to have responses for that. So before I get into that, one of the things he likes to use is the story about Michael Vick, how he abused animals for dogfighting, and it was for his own pleasure. And people are outraged by whenever they see animal abuses, cats getting kicked or dogs being beaten or that type of thing. But it's really the same if you do it or if you hire someone to do it. So like if you eat animal products, other people are killing the animals, and a lot of times just the very nature of trying to feed 7 billion people, you have to make efficiencies, which generally mean cramming animals into small compartments and enclosures and basically making their lives miserable. So even if you wanted to have them all running around grass-fed, it just wouldn't be sustainable for 7 billion people. You just couldn't do it. And so he uses Michael Vick as a very example that there's not really a distinction. No, psychologically, these people that injure animals are definitely have issues psychologically, but morally it's really the same thing. He uses the example in law where if you hire someone to kill a spouse or something like that, it's really the same as if you did it from a legal perspective. But there's a lot of the great part is part 2 is all the excuses that people use, and you'll get these. So this way you can have some ammunition, to have some preparation, how to respond to these situations. So there's like the typical, how do you get your protein, iron, calcium, children getting enough iodine, God wanting us to eat animals from the Bible. What if you're on a desert island starving and you had to eat a rabbit or something like that? What would happen to all the animals if all the cows and pigs if we didn't eat them? Like we basically brought them into existence for us to eat. So, and do animals feel pain? Fish feel pain? Shouldn't we focus on human rights issues? Hitler was a vegetarian. Plants, a lot of times people think plants, they feel pain or they're sentient or something like that. Tradition, top of the food chain, animals are eating other animals, like it's natural in nature for some animals to kill each other. What about humanely, quote unquote, produced foods? So partners, the partner doesn't want to go along with it. The people that don't want to give up their favorite food. So it's really great because there's short little sections on each of those, and you can, over time go back to this and try to remember and learn these responses to use. So it's a quick read, but you really want to go back over it and sort of prepare your responses for those, just to remember them and to sort of have a good response. But when I look at people, I've said this many times, when people say, how do you get your protein or whatever, they're not really concerned about your protein in general. They're seeing your veganism as an attack because they probably know that it's wrong and just don't want to think about it. They put it out of their mind. But if you're there eating food, even if you don't say anything, you're making judgments and they're feeling self-conscious about it. So when they're saying, what about protein, they're trying to say that the reason they eat the animal products is because of the protein. They're just pulling these things out. And when they ask about, living on a desert island, these scenarios are rare. If you're in a situation where all you can do is eat meat, there's no vegetables, which is, pretty much crazy. There's no plants available. I don't know, how would you eat an animal? What would the animal eat if he was on that island? Or if you're on a boat somewhere and you got to choose between a dog and, it's just these ridiculous scenarios. Most of us don't live in those, don't have to make those choices. Every day we can eat vegan, plant-based food, and we don't have to consume animals to survive. The science is in there. So he gets into that as well, that, there's no need. You can get all the nutrients you need from plants. And so a lot of these things that people bring up are just things that they either are trying to attack you or they're using that to justify their own, behavior. So anyways, the other thing you could do is check out some of the videos on YouTube by Gary Francione. They're very passionate about this whole aspect. And so, I talk a lot about recipes, starch-based comfort foods that are really excellent transitions from a standard American diet, because I think that's a great way to make it easy and safe, way for people to approach it. They're mashed potatoes and gravy, fries, pasta, pizza. They're really enjoying these meals. But there's so many levels that I think about environmental and animal rights and human rights, even for people that aren't getting access to food, and we're deforestation in other countries because we want the meat and stuff like that. So it definitely affects these other countries. So all these things are really important, and I've sort of mostly focused on the food as a approachable way to get people off of the animal products. So, but I do want to talk about these issues. And if you're a meat and dairy eater, I urge you to check out this book and also potatostrong.com, and check out my videos on all the recipes that I've made. So I've tried to make tasty meals that you're used to having. It just doesn't have the animal products. And so just to recap, 2 thumbs up and 5 star for Eat Like You Care by Gary Francione. See you guys.